This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Friday, January 3rd, 2025. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
It's believed the attacker in the New Orleans terrorist attack acted alone, and his family is speaking out. I'm Clayton Neville.
The man who died in a Tesla Cybertruck explosion outside Donald Trump's Las Vegas hotel was an elite active-duty soldier. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
A warning to the media from Elon Musk.
House Speaker Mike Johnson aims to hold on to his gavel at today's vote on his speakership. I'm John Stolnis in Washington.
On Wall Street, stocks started 2025 trading with losses, and some investors are worried about Tesla. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
10 people shot outside of a New York City nightclub. Rita Foley has details.
While it's not in the headlines anymore, COVID-19 is still with us. I'm Shelley Appler.
All ahead on America in the Morning. Federal investigators believe the terrorist in the New Year's morning attack on Bourbon Street in New Orleans acted alone. Correspondent Clayton Neville has the latest on a city exemplifying resilience after the attack that left at least 14 people dead and 35 injured when a truck plowed through a crowd.
Mayor Latoya Cantrell, with the sounds of a band behind her, walked Bourbon Street a day after terror played out there. Now that street reopened.
We're ready to continue to host large-scale events in our city because we are built to host at every single turn.
The mayor stressing resiliency on a day the Sugar Bowl, which was postponed by the attack, went off with no major problems. Notre Dame winning the game and fans in the stands to see it. Now, as far as the investigation, the FBI says the attacker, a military veteran from Texas, acted alone.
We do not assess at this point that anyone else involved in this attack is involved in this attack except for Shamsuddin Jabbar.
Christopher Rea with the FBI.
This was an act of terrorism. It was premeditated and an evil act.
The FBI addressing speculation that the New Orleans attack and the explosion of a Tesla outside Trump Tower in Las Vegas are related.
At this point, there is no definitive link between the attack here in New Orleans and the one in Las Vegas.
Investigators say the attacker posted several videos before the attack to an online platform proclaiming his support for ISIS. He's also said to have placed coolers with explosive devices in spots across New Orleans. Those have now been recovered. Anyone who may have seen him drop those coolers is being asked to come forward.
We're going to continue to relentlessly pursue ISIS and other terrorist organizations where they are, and they'll find no safe harbor here.
President Biden again addressing the terror and saying he'll try to visit New Orleans.
Federal law enforcement and the intelligence community are actively investigating any foreign or domestic contacts and connection that could possibly be relevant to the attack.
More to learn about what led the attacker to terror, but his family's speaking out.
He grew out his beard, and he became more modest in his dressing.
His brother spoke with KFDM TV in Texas.
Nobody's seen anything like this coming.
I'm Clayton Neville.
There are new details surrounding the vehicle explosion outside the Trump International Hotel in Las Vegas. Correspondent Sagar Meghani reports on the military status of the man who's believed to have taken his own life inside the electric truck at the hotel's front doors.
Officials say a highly decorated elite soldier planned to cause more damage when his rented Tesla Cybertruck exploded outside a Trump hotel in Las Vegas.
He was indeed in the United States Army. He was also a Green Beret operations sergeant who spent most of his time at Fort Carson, Colorado, and in Germany. He was on approved leave from Germany, where he was serving with the 10th Special Forces Group.
Officials believe the man in the truck was Matthew Livelsberger.
The individual had sustained a gunshot wound to the head prior to the detonation of the vehicle. One of the handguns was found at his feet inside of the vehicle.
The Army says he was a member of the Green Berets on approved leave. The command is based at the North Carolina base, formerly known as Fort Bragg. Shamsuddin Jabbar also spent time there as a soldier. Clark County Sheriff Kevin McMahill says they believe Livelsberger shot himself in the head, and the explosion did not cause the intended damage.
Sort of vented out and up,
with the steel-sided truck absorbing much of the force.
The level of sophistication is not what we would expect from an individual with this type of military experience.
ATFE Special Agent Kenny Cooper.
We've identified 2 semi-automatic handguns recovered from the Tesla. We have successfully traced those firearms, and I can tell you that Matthew Livelsberg lawfully purchased both of these firearms on December 30th, 2024. We have agents following up those investigative leads. We know exactly where those firearms were purchased.
7 people suffered minor injuries, and the blast didn't even hit the hotel's doors a few feet away. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
The top stories of the day are sponsored by Sleep Number. And now it's the lowest price of the season on the top-selling i8 smart bed. Your best savings plus special financing. Limited time. See store or sleepnumber.com for details. U.S. Speaker of the House on shaky ground when America in the Morning returns after these messages. Now for today's national weather forecast. Plenty of active weather to report today on America in the Morning. Beginning in the west, here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
It does look like more of the same for the west today as the latest round of energy enhances precipitation across a sizable chunk of the northwest and into California. Compared to Thursday, the rain dives farther southward in California, dousing the San Francisco Bay Area and some points southward as well. Precipitation takes a more showery feel right along the coast of Washington and Oregon, with steadier rain farther inland but to the west of the Cascades. For the mountains themselves, snow is instead expected. Rain and snow are in store to the east of the mountains and toward the Idaho-Montana border, with all snow more likely around west central Montana. Fairly strong high pressure otherwise helps to keep the southwestern states dry today, with a separate zone of high pressure centered over central Canada, nosing into the plains and the south to keep colder and mainly quiet conditions in place. Even the southeast benefits from a mostly precipitation-free end to the second consecutive holiday week, but areas farther to the north face a much more tricky forecast. A storm that brought snow to the areas from Iowa through mainly northern Indiana yesterday will become better organized from the Ohio Valley into the mid-Atlantic over the course of the day today. This will bring some steady snow into southern Ohio and parts of Kentucky and West Virginia, as well as Pennsylvania. By later today, snow showers can even cross the Appalachian Mountains and track toward part of the I-95 corridor from the nation's capital to perhaps Philadelphia, where there can be a coating to a localized few inches of snow. Lake-effect snow also continues to the north of there from Michigan through central New York. In Dover, Delaware, increasing clouds give way to late day and evening snow showers and up to an inch of snow, the high 42. For Denver, look for sunshine and clouds with a high of 51. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Remember to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. Tesla CEO Elon Musk is warning that he will consider suing media outlets over their coverage of the truck explosion that took place outside of the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas Wednesday morning. Police found Matthew Livelsberger, a 37-year-old Green Beret, dead of a gunshot wound inside the Tesla Cybertruck, which was packed with flammable materials before it exploded outside the front doors of the Trump International Hotel. Damage from the blast was mostly limited to the interior of the truck, and it was noted by Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department Sheriff Kevin McMahill that the Cybertruck's futuristic design and construction may have deflected the damage that occurred. America in the Morning continues. In just a few hours, House Speaker Mike Johnson will see if there are enough of his Republican colleagues to keep him in the top position of the U.S. House. John Stolnis has more from Washington.
Speaker Johnson is hoping to avoid the fate that befell his predecessor, Kevin McCarthy, and hold on to his job at the head of the Republican caucus. However, with Republican Thomas Massie already declaring he is a no vote, just one additional no from a Republican colleague will sink his efforts to be reelected as Speaker, at least at the start. Speaking on Fox Business yesterday, Johnson said he's confident he has the votes.
I think it's going to be okay, Larry. We'll have maybe one no vote, I think. I think we get it done on the first round. Certainly hopeful for that because, as we noted, we've got to stick together.
With multiple Republican members of the House joining the Trump administration, there is little wiggle room for Republicans, as Johnson notes.
We'll be operating with the smallest margin in U.S. history for much of the first 100 days of the Congress, and perhaps longer into the year. So it necessitates that every single Republican, as diverse as our caucus is, can put aside their personal preferences every day and work together for the team.
Donald Trump is publicly backing Johnson, believing the Speaker is the only one who can come close to securing enough votes. The new Congress cannot be sworn in until a Speaker is elected, and should Johnson not get the votes and the speakership battle drag on for days, it's unclear if Congress would be able to certify Trump's electoral victory on Monday, January 6th. John Stolness, Washington.
Less demand, less deliveries for this EV automaker when America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. The Business Report is brought to you by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments has a team of specialists in investing, financial planning, estate planning, and more. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
Wall Street opens this morning after a rocky day yesterday, but in the end, a down day for stocks to start 2025 trading. The S&P 500 index is on its longest losing streak now since last April. Some investors say after 2 straight years of full-year double-digit S&P 500 index gains, that's a rare occurrence, stocks really could pull back.
I think this is a year for a correction. I think the end of the year, I'm not saying we'll be in a correction by the end of the year, but, it's been a long time since I've called something like that.
Wharton professor Jeremy Siegel on CNBC. And Yardeni Research's Ed Yardeni says he still sees the S&P 500 index higher when this year ends than where it began yesterday.
I still think the market's in good shape. I'm very optimistic on the earnings outlook because I'm optimistic on the outlook for the economy. I'm looking for the S&P 500 to go up along with earnings rather than get to 7,000 by the end of the year. But it's not going to be a straight line. And I would think that in the next few weeks, things are going to be somewhat bumpy.
Tesla had something happen that's never happened before. It reported its first drop in annual deliveries. Tesla used to have the electric vehicle market mostly to itself, but now it's got competition as drivers choose other brands.
The first annual decline in deliveries for Tesla, you're starting to see perhaps a bit of a glut. One of the things we'll be looking at, where do they come in with this lower priced model, and when do we see that? Do we see that second half of 25?
CNBC's Phil LeBeau. Oil popped to its highest since mid-October, topping $73 a barrel yesterday. Drivers could see a tick higher in prices at the pump. Would-be homebuyers are starting this new year facing mortgage rates pushing 7.1% on average, according to Mortgage News Daily. The housing market was hoping for a big boost from the Fed cutting interest rates, but mortgages, well, those rates don't follow the Fed.
Mortgage demand positively cratered to end 2024 thanks to a sharp rise in mortgage interest rates. While December is typically the slowest month of the year for home sales, these numbers again are seasonally adjusted, and that annual comparison is showing considerable weakness. There are more homes on the market now than there were last year at this time, but many of those homes have been sitting for months due to higher prices and, again, these higher mortgage rates. Mortgage News Daily has a 30-year fixed rate now over 7%.
CNBC's Diana Olick. Hollywood's final big movies of the year, like Sonic 3 and Mufasa, failed to help the 2024 box office surpass 2023. Movie ticket sales were down about 3%. On today's watch list, we get light vehicle sales numbers for some automakers. Apple TV Plus will be free to stream for 3 days through Sunday.
Good to know. CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. It's been 5 years. COVID-19 unmasked. When America in the Morning returns after these messages. You're with America in the Morning. A street in New York City becomes a crime scene after 10 people were shot outside of a nightclub. Here's correspondent Rita Foley.
10 people were wounded in a shooting outside a New York City nightclub while they were waiting to get into a private event, say police. They say several men approached the group and 3 or 4 of them opened fire. About 30 shots rang out and then the gunman took off. They were seen getting into a sedan with out-of-state plates. The wounded were taken to hospitals. They are expected to survive. New York Police Department Chief of Patrol Philip Rivera called them senseless shootings. The motive was not immediately known, but Rivera said, "This is not terrorism." I'm Rita Foley.
It was 5 years ago that the world began an unprecedented shutdown. Correspondent Shelley Adler reports on COVID-19 5 years later.
While it's not in the headlines anymore, COVID-19 is still with us. The COVID-19 virus is still around, though humanity has built up immunity through vaccinations and infections. But the virus continues to evolve, meaning scientists must track it closely. In this country, the CDC says an average of about 900 people a week have died of COVID-19 over the past year. The virus continues to affect older adults the most. Last winter, people who were 75 and older accounted for about half the nation's COVID-19 hospitalizations and in-hospital deaths. While the vaccines aren't perfect, they do a good job of preventing severe disease, hospitalization, and death. I'm Shelley Adler.
America in the Morning for Friday, January 3rd, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay, senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour, New Orleans prepares for 2 major events after New Year's attack.
The incoming Trump administration's border czar thinks there is a connection between Vegas and New Orleans. I'm Clayton Neville.
President-elect Trump scores a major win on control of the internet. I'm Bob Brown. That story coming up.
Turmoil in South Korea, where the president faces arrest and a jetliner disaster is investigated. Plus, President Biden offers awards at the White House and fresh unemployment numbers.
Your Volkswagen may have given up your location data. I'm tech correspondent Chuck Palm.
A bleak thriller is one of the few new films for the first weekend of 2025. I'm Kevin Carr.
Back after these messages. This is America in the Morning. There are plenty of areas around the nation today expecting heavy amounts of snow. With today's forecast, AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
As a fast-moving disturbance taps into some of the cold air already in place over the Northeast, as well as a strengthening feature higher up in the atmosphere, snow will be the result today from eastern Kentucky across much of southern and eastern Ohio, southwestern Pennsylvania, and many areas west of the Appalachian Mountains through the morning hours, including Charleston, West Virginia, and Pittsburgh. However, the snow eventually makes it over the mountains later today, and given the unstable conditions in place, there can be an enhanced burst of snow showers around or just after sunset in places such as Washington, D.C., Baltimore, or even Philadelphia that may lead to a sudden reduction in visibility along with at least a coating of snow. The best chance for up to 1 to 3 inches of snow will be from the high ground of West Virginia northward into southern Pennsylvania, but even the nation's capital can pick up a coating to an inch of snow today. To the north of there, the latest days-long lake effect snow event continues from Michigan into northwestern Pennsylvania and much of western and central New York, and when tallying the reports from Wednesday to Sunday, there may be 2 to 3 feet of snow within a small zone just to the north of Syracuse, New York. At least 3 to 6 inches of snow can be expected from the Cleveland area into western New York, as well as around much of the I-81 and I-90 corridors in upstate New York. In Michigan, a broad 1 to 3 inches of snow stretches from just west of Detroit across the northern part of lower Michigan, with higher amounts just downwind of the lakeshore. Most places from the southeast and plains to the southwest look dry today, but today instead looks to be another busy day in the west, with rain in northern and central California, showers at the Pacific Northwest coast, and steadier rain west of the Cascades, with snow in the mountains and through central Montana. That's the weather across America. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Remember to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. In New Orleans, investigators and the FBI now believe the suspect who posted videos declaring support for ISIS shortly before the deadly Bourbon Street pickup truck attack on New Year's. 14 people were killed in the incident. The city hosted the Sugar Bowl, but questions remain over security for upcoming events in New Orleans, including Mardi Gras and the Super Bowl. Here's correspondent Shelley Adler.
We do not assess at this point that anyone else involved in this attack except for Shamsuddin Jabbar.
The FBI now says the New Orleans truck attacker acted alone.
This was an act of terrorism. It was premeditated and an evil act.
Christopher Rea, the Deputy Assistant Director of the FBI's Counter-Terrorism Division, who said the assailant also posted 5 videos to his Facebook page in the hours before the violence.
In the first video, Jabbar explains he originally planned to harm his family and friends, but was concerned the news headlines would not focus on the, quote, war between the believers and the disbelievers, end quote. Additionally, he stated he had joined ISIS before this summer.
Rea also said there was no connection between the attack in New Orleans, where 15 people died, and the Tesla Cybertruck explosion in Las Vegas, also on New Year's Day.
You are going to see an incredibly large presence of police. And we are, though, confident, but we want our community to feel confident and know they are confidently safe. And that's what we're going to do. So right now, I can declare to you that the Bourbon Street is open.
The mayor of New Orleans says her city is ready to host big events like the Super Bowl next month, even after the truck attack on New Year's Day.
The city of New Orleans, we're resilient.
New Orleans Mayor LaToya Cantrell.
I want to reassure the public that the city of New Orleans is ready to continue to host large-scale events in our city because we are built to host at every single turn.
The first big test will be the start of the carnival season on Monday, which is a months-long period leading up to Mardi Gras. The Super Bowl is scheduled for February 9th. I'm Shelley Adler.
The border czar under the incoming Trump administration says the United States is in danger in the wake of the terror attack in New Orleans and a truck explosion outside the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
President-elect Donald Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, spoke with Fox News about the terror attack in New Orleans, where more than a dozen people were killed by a truck that plowed through a crowd, and about the truck explosion outside Trump Tower in Las Vegas.
The man in New Orleans certainly had no plans of going home for getting out and trading gunfire with law enforcement. So I think both these men realized they weren't going home after this event.
Homan told Fox threats are not over and pointed to the southern border.
I've been on this network for 4 years talking about the threats coming across our southern border. And, we got a record number of known gotaways. Over 2 million people enter this country. We don't know who they are.
In the New Orleans attack and the Vegas case, the men involved are American citizens. Motive in Vegas still unclear, but the FBI does confirm that the Bourbon Street attack was inspired by ISIS. With both men having military backgrounds, Homan did insist.
We need to drill down and find out about this inspiration and what insider threat is currently in the United States government, military and in the United States government service, and address them right away. We got to address insider threat. We have to.
When asked if he thinks there's a connection between Vegas and New Orleans, Homan said,
"This is a gut feeling. I've done this for 3.5 decades. I just think there's too many similarities, too much coincidence. I think something down the road they're going to show there's some sort of connection, whether it's they got whether it's some same network or where they got the tools to pull these terrorist attacks off. I just feel like there's going to be something down the road, and I could be wrong. It's just a gut feeling I have."
There has not been a confirmed connection by federal or local officials at this point. I'm Clayton Neville.
An important court victory for President-elect Donald Trump regarding a decade-long battle to keep the federal government from having control over the Internet. Correspondent Bob Brown has the details on the net neutrality verdict.
A federal appeals court has struck down the Federal Communications Commission's efforts to increase the monitoring of content generated by Internet service providers in much the same way an oversight panel would monitor a utility. The court ruling Thursday the FCC lacked the authority to reinstate the so-called net neutrality rules dating back to the Obama administration.
Abandoning these principles would threaten to end the Internet as we know it. That's why I'm laying out a plan to keep the Internet free and open. And that's why I'm urging the Federal Communications Commission to do everything they can to protect net neutrality for everyone.
President Trump repealed the rules when he was in the White House in his first term. The FCC reinstated the rules under the Biden administration. Trump has vowed to roll back those regulations. Many internet providers are praising the ruling. Brendan Carr, who has been chosen by Trump to be the next FCC chairman, reportedly has never been on board with the idea of net neutrality rules. State laws in California, Colorado, and Washington are not affected by the ruling. I'm Bob Brown.
Weapons cache stockpile uncovered by investigators, and hackers target electric vehicles. Those items and more when America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. I'm John Trout. Standoff in South Korea at the home of the South Korean president, who faces arrest after he attempted to declare martial law as he was being impeached last month and is facing insurrection charges. Aviation authorities are still trying to piece together how a commercial airliner crashed on landing in the southern part of the nation, killing 179 people, a probe that has now been joined by U.S. investigators. Correspondent Charles De Ledesma reports.
Jeju's CEO Kim Ee-bae has once again apologised to the victims and families, saying the company will do everything it can to ensure safety and regain customers' trust. Meanwhile, South Korea's Chief of Aviation Jo Chong-wang says 11 investigators from the Aviation and Railway Accident Investigation Board and 8 US Joint Investigation Team members will begin an on-site investigation. The plane was seen having engine trouble, and preliminary examinations also say the pilots received a bird strike warning from the ground control centre and issued a distress signal as well. But many experts say the landing gear issue was likely the main cause of the crash. I'm Charles De Ledesma.
Federal agents say a man arrested in Southern Virginia assembled one of the largest stockpiles of homemade explosives ever seized. Jennifer King reports.
The stockpile was found during a December search of the home and detached garage of 36-year-old Brad Spafford in Isle of Wight County, west of Norfolk, Virginia. Federal investigators found more than 150 homemade pipe bombs, explosive devices marked as lethal, and some of the homemade bombs loaded into a wearable vest. Other apparent pipe bombs were found in a backpack unsecured in a bedroom of the home Spafford shares with his wife and 2 young children. He's being held on firearms charges, but prosecutors say he faces numerous additional potential charges. His defense attorneys argue there's not a shred of evidence that he was planning violence and that he has no criminal record. But at a hearing this week, the judge agreed to keep him detained. The investigation began in 2023 after a tip about the stockpile. The informant told authorities that Spafford disfigured his hand in 2021 while working on homemade explosives and that he was using pictures of the president for target practice. I'm Jennifer King.
In his last weeks in office, President Biden awarded the second highest civilian award to 20 people, including Liz Cheney. Lisa Dwyer reports.
Liz Cheney and Representative Benny Thompson received the second highest civilian medal from President Joe Biden.
The most important title in America is not president, but citizen.
Cheney and Thompson were leaders of the congressional investigation into the Capitol riot January 6, 2021.
Elizabeth L. Cheney for putting the American people over party. Benny G. Thompson for his lifelong dedication to safeguarding our Constitution.
President-elect Donald Trump has previously said that Cheney and Thompson should be in jail. The Presidential Citizens Medal was created by President Richard Nixon in 1969 and is the country's second highest civilian honor after the Presidential Medal of Freedom. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
While the number appeared to be high, there was positive reaction to the latest on national unemployment benefits claims. Here's correspondent Sagar Meghani with the numbers.
The Labor Department says jobless benefit claims fell by 9,000 last week for a total of 211,000, the fewest since the spring. That suggests most American workers are enjoying unusual job security. Next week's jobs report is expected to show employers added 160,000 jobs in December, while that would be down from 2024's average monthly gain of 180,000. Growth is still solid amid high interest rates, with the job market cooling and inflation down but still higher than it would like. The Federal Reserve's projecting only 2 rate cuts this year. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
Your new Volkswagen electric vehicle may have leaked your location, phone number, and email address to hackers. Here's Chuck Palm with that in today's Tech News.
According to an article in the German magazine Der Spiegel, Volkswagen may have leaked over 800,000 records of their customers' sensitive data. The leak may have exposed location data, emails, addresses, and phone numbers of some of the drivers, according to the report. The leak reportedly stemmed from the software running inside of Volkswagen electric vehicles and could have allowed a bad actor to trace a driver's exact movements. A whistleblower first notified the magazine and the European Hacking Association, Chaos Computer Club, of the vulnerability, which also affects EVs from Volkswagen-owned other car brands on a global scale. The software manufacturer Caridad may have made it possible for an attacker to find and access driver data housed in the Amazon cloud storage service. Caridad said they have addressed the issue and no further action is necessary. For more tech news, follow me on X at Chuck Palm.
Busy week on the gridiron. Here's Robert Workman with a check of Friday sports.
At the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans, Notre Dame wiped out number 2 Georgia 23-10 yesterday. The game was tied at 3 late in the first half. Then the Irish blew things open in the space of less than a minute on the game clock. Mitch Jeter's field goal put Notre Dame in front with 39 seconds left before halftime. The Bulldogs tried to make something happen before intermission, but a strip sack and a fumble gave the Irish the ball at the 13, and Riley Leonard immediately hit Bo Collins for a touchdown. Then Jaden Harrison took the second half kickoff 98 yards to the house for a 20-3 Irish lead. Coach Marcus Freeman.
Coaches called the game aggressive. Our players executed, put everything on the line for this university and this football team, and I'm really proud of them.
So the national semifinals are set for next week. Notre Dame takes on Penn State at the Orange Bowl on Thursday. Then Texas meets Ohio State at the Cotton Bowl 1 week from tonight. The title game is Monday, January 20th in Atlanta. One other bowl game last night at the Gator Bowl in Jacksonville. Number 14 Mississippi demolished Duke 52-20. Jackson Dart threw for 404 yards and 4 touchdowns. NBA, the Thunder thumped the Clippers 116-98 for their franchise record 13th consecutive victory, turning a 16-point first-half deficit into an 18-point lead after 3. 38 for LeBron James to lead the Lakers over the Blazers. They move ahead of the Clips into first place in the Pacific Division. NHL, the Wild clipped the Capitals 4-3 in a shootout. Alex Ovechkin scored goal number 871 for Washington, but was stopped by Marc-Andre Fleury to end the tiebreaker. That's Friday Sports.
Thank you, Robert. When we return on America in the Morning, on-time takeoffs and landings, report card for the airlines. After these messages. This is America in the Morning. Singer Wayne Osmond of the Osmond Brothers has passed away after suffering a stroke. Entertainment correspondent Margie Zaraletta has a look back on his career.
Just like a yo-yo. Wayne Osmond was number 4 of the 9 Osmond kids. With his brothers Merrill, Alan, and Jay, the Osmonds became regulars on the Andy Williams Show in the 1960s after being discovered at Disneyland. Don't love me for fun. They later added brothers Donnie and Jimmy. The Osmonds had hits with Love Me for a Reason, Yo-Yo, Hold Her Right, and Down by the Lazy River. Their song One Bad Apple was a number 1 hit in 1970. They moved to a more country sound in the 1980s. Wayne lost his hearing in the 1990s from a brain tumor and suffered a stroke in 2012 that made him unable to play guitar. I'm Margie Zaraletta.
A Nordic thriller is coming up against the holiday hits at the box office this weekend. Kevin Carr has a sneak peek at The Damned.
On a weekend certain to be dominated by holiday leftovers, an independent thriller slid its way into wide release.
May the Lord protect you from harmful sea creatures and dangerous pirates.
The Damned follows a group of fishermen suffering through a harsh winter on a remote Nordic beach. On the brink of starvation, they neglect to help a vessel sinking nearby for fear it will hurt themselves.
Helping those men will put all of your lives at risk, and I cannot do that.
The aftermath yields weeks of terror, paranoia, guilt, and revenge that threatens to destroy them all.
What happened on that ship was a terrible tragedy.
He doesn't care.
The bleak imagery and the surrounding fjords offer a powerful backdrop of being trapped, and the cast of international actors hold their own with limited story material.
We should not be here.
Help me! Help me!
However, the monochromatic desolation and long nights in the story make it a struggle to focus throughout. Plus, it's a real slow burn that makes Nosferatu look like a Fast and Furious movie.
It won't stop until it's taken all of us.
Keep it away! Keep it away from me! I respect the effort, and it's a well-made film. However, it's weighted down with predictability and too much foreshadowed dread. I mean, it's in the title, for crying out loud.
It's never too late to ask for forgiveness for what we did.
Not particularly mainstream, let's not forget its roots. Still, The Damned gets 2 snowy fjords out of 5. I'm Kevin Carr, and that's the way I see it.
We can become overjoyed when our flight takes off and arrives on time. Correspondent Jackie Quinn reports on which airlines are being noted for the best on-time performance of 2024.
Despite a computer outage in July that forced thousands of cancellations, Delta Airlines is the top U.S. carrier and 3rd worldwide when it comes to flights being on time. The data group Cirium says Delta's rating is 83%. United Airlines came in at nearly 81%, and Alaska Airlines 3rd in the U.S. with just over 79%. Globally, Mexican airline Aeromexico ranked best, nearly 87% of its flights were on time. Saudia ranked 2nd worldwide. Cirium officials say with severe weather patterns and this past summer's technology outage, the airlines that performed well deserve credit. I'm Jackie Quinn.
That's our show for today. Friday, January 3rd, 2025. America in the Morning is produced by Jeff McKay. Senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.